It's really a pleasure for me to have this opportunity to introduce Dr. David Pilgrim from Ferris State University. I've known David for a little while now, I think since about 2001. David is Professor of Social Sciences at Ferris. He's also the new Chief Diversity Officer at Ferris. And he is spearheading a campaign to move the Jim Crow Museum at Ferris to a larger facility. David, it's a pleasure. Welcome to Grand Valley.
Well, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Well, let's see. I've met several Grand Valley students. They're all making A's and are trying hard. They think 16 credits is a lot. Anyway, a few years back I was speaking at the Sloan Museum, and I told my daughter Gabrielle that I was going to speak at the Sloan Museum, and she said to me, "Dad, why would anybody be interested in something you have to say?" And now she's a little kid, so you know, I'll tell you, I got sick about 4 or 5 years ago, got really sick, dropped a bunch of weight, and at that time I had a chance to think about this mist that we get for life, and sort of resolved in myself that we need to do something, and we need to do it urgently, and that's something that ought to improve the world. And at that time I also had an epiphany, and that was, it is an absolute blessing when people are interested in what you have to say. There are so many people with something to say and they don't have an audience. So the fact that you came out here today means a great deal to me. I may not be good, but I will be long. Well, let's put it this way. It'll be shorter than it seems. Well, let's get started. That is a picture of the Jim Crow Museum. I'll try to answer some of your questions without you asking them. What I really prefer, if I could get you to do this, is when we finish, if you come over to the reception and I'll get a chance to talk to you in small groups and answer any question that you have. Trust me, at this point, I've heard most questions. If you look at that picture right there, you can tell we're not very big. We're moving into a larger facility, and we're trying to raise, I think we need about $800,000. I would not be me if I did not say at this point that if you have $800,000 on you, I'm not joking, no gifts are too big. Anyway, that room is so small that it actually does a few things. First of all, we have about 2,000 pieces showing. We have another 3,000 pieces that are not showing. But when you're in a very small room and you have 2,000 pieces of racist artifacts looking at you and no signs, no didactic panels, I know that makes Tim Chester wince every time I say that. No didactic panels, nothing, just you, a museum facilitator, and those objects. I tell you, it's very powerful. And when we move into the new facility, we're probably going to lose some of that hammer, if you understand what I mean. We are not a shrine to racism. There is this faulty assumption in the United States now that if you talk about race, you promote racism. That does not make stupid sense. The reality is you promote racism by not talking about race and not talking about racism. You can put me in any high school or college in this country, and I can tell you within 10 minutes of me being there talking to people whether or not those people at that school talk about race in an open and honest way. Because when they don't, and there is an incident, there is no foundation for redemption. By the way, that picture is a postcard. What we have in the museum are everyday objects, all propaganda. Propaganda. In my introduction to sociology class, I tell my students that propaganda is information deliberately disseminated for the express purpose of persuading somebody to do something or think some way. This postcard right here is not just one of those I'm having fun down in Florida type things. It's also saying something about how we ought to see black people, in this case black children, naked, where are their parents, They look uncivilized. They look animalistic. And again, it's a postcard, an everyday object. Every object in the Jim Crow Museum, all 5,000 pieces, can be purchased today. Every object in the Jim Crow Museum, all 5,000 pieces, can be purchased today. Have you heard that somewhere before? Yeah, I just said it twice. Every object in the Jim Crow Museum can be purchased. Not only that, all the objects are still being made. I challenge you. And by the way, I'm not one of those minorities in our country who believes that America has not made significant progress in terms of race relations. When you say that, you sound silly and lose legitimacy. The reality, though, is that racist material objects continue to be made. Go to eBay, go to Yahoo, and type in a bad word and see how many objects you pull up. You will find that all these objects are still being reproduced. By the way, this is, what do you think this is? I get that at home all the time. What do you think that is? What's your name?
Andrea.
Hello, Andrea. How do you feel?
Great.
Not as good as I did 10 years ago. I'm still hanging in there.
We look great.
As the Chief Diversity Officer of Federal State, I want to tell you that that is borderline inappropriate. It's received well. What do you think the object is? Anybody got an idea? I'm sorry. It says, I went all the way with LBJ. And what it is a license plate. And actually, if you look around, you'll still see some license plates with this kind of, well, at least similar silliness. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say silly. I should be objective. I am, after all, a social scientist. I graduated from the greatest university in the country, The Ohio State University. Don't start with me. You know, I tell you what, I joke a lot. Anybody got an idea why I joke so much? Because when you deal with what I deal with, you better have a sense of humor. I'm serious. You better have one. I was in Sam's Club. Anybody know Sam's Club on Alpine? And the woman came up to me. If you've heard this story before, just pretend that you haven't. If you have not heard this story before, look at someone who has heard it, and they'll signal to you when it's appropriate to laugh. I was in Sam's Club, and this woman came over to me. I was with my wife, and this woman came over to me, and she said, "You look to be about the size of my husband. Would you put this sweatshirt or sweater on? Because it'll fit you, it'll probably fit him." And I said, "No, get that away from me." And she says, "Well, could I lie it on your back?" I said, "I think it's late, and no, get away from me." She said, "You are the rudest man I have ever met in my life." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, if you were in a ditch and you needed help, I'd help you. If you told me you needed money, I'd give you money. If I could help your children get into college, I'd do it. But I'll be damned if I put a University of Michigan sweatshirt on. That goes over really well at Columbus. Not so much here. This is sheet music right here. Again, an everyday object. In the museum, we talk about every topic. We don't have topics you can't talk about. That's one of the things wrong with America right now. We are afraid to talk about race. Many white Americans are afraid to talk about race for fear that they will be judged racist. Many African Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Indigenous Americans are afraid they're going to sound angry. Let it go. Stop it. We have got to talk. And we have got to talk in a way that just, you know, there are some conversations that when you finish them, they change both people. I know it sounds corny, trite, mawkish, but it's true. We got to have those kind of conversations. I say I like to say this. You see that word coon? That's a racial slur. I hear probably a fourth of the conversations we have in the museum about the word nigger. We have all these conversations about it. And one of the things, for example, sometimes white Americans will say to me, "Why is it that African Americans can call each other niggers and we can't?" And my answer to them is, "Why do you want to?" And then my second answer is, they shouldn't either. But as it relates to this, what I say to my young brothers who want to use that word is, would you walk up to another African American and say, "Yo, what's up, my coon?"